Unahaganisiga Zandavi. My name is Jacqueline Weiss. I am the host of Healing the Survivors, and today I have Zulma Bernice with me. She is a holistic practitioner and a life coach and an author. She is very passionate about empowering women through her blog and is passionate about helping inspire others using her gift of healing. So welcome, Zulma. How are you doing today? I know you just got home from work, so it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do and what you're about.
Oh, great. It's really awesome to be here with you, Jackie. I thank you for the opportunity to share about myself and what I do. And if any of that can help a single person, my purpose is fulfilled in sharing. And so by you creating the space for us to do this, it's just really amazing. I feel great. It's been quite a year for me just all together, and collectively I think we can all agree that it's been a lot going on, a lot to process, a lot to feel. And when you deal with certain things, then you add more on top. If you don't take care of the certain things, then it will just snowball after that.
Right.
So important to be here and have the good conversations and then the really hard conversations too sometimes. So my name's Zulma Berenice. I am originally from Mexico, but I've been in the States for a really long time. I have pretty much raised here since I was about 10 years old. My name is of origin, Arabic origin, and it means full of life. And so I take a lot from my name and also my middle name. And that's why the wordplay that I use for who I am and what it represents for me, it's Z from Zulma and B from Berenice. And it's Zeebeeyoutiful because I'll be talking about what that means to me later. But it's just an encouragement for everyone that regardless of the situations you're in, there are always reasons to find beauty in life. And it may be that seed that starts to grow and just change your whole life. That one little beautiful thing that you hold on to. So let me see, where should I start?
Tell us a little about your story. How did you get from that to where you're at now?
Okay, so in my 20s, as just about culturally, I can say every Latina girl dreams about getting married, having her kids and family and the fairy tale life, right? Happily ever after. So got married, had my first child very early on in the marriage, which I absolutely loved because being a mother was just one of my, top dreams. So, little by little, most of my 20s, I began to develop chronic pain issues and not really knowing at that moment why, and with what I know now, it had to do a lot of psychosomatic issues that were not being looked at because who teaches us about those things, right? We just don't know. So little by little, I started spiraling down to where even the day-to-day basic things were very difficult to do, which was very frustrating for me because one of the things that I always think about was like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I, have a pretty just clean life to where, and then I would think about people my age in their 20s who are pretty much trashing their bodies and just doing, whatever, no consequences. And here I am raising a child, trying to be as healthy as I can be. And I couldn't wash my hair without being in intense pain, or washing the dishes or just the very, very basic things that we don't even think twice about doing on auto mode every day. So little by little, things kept getting worse. And of course, we go see the medical professionals that are supposed to be there to help you. But of course, that's a whole nother story that we probably won't even go deep into today. But long story short on that aspect, it wasn't until I was about 30 that I was diagnosed with lupus. And it was not here in the States, it was in Mexico. And so by then, I had educated myself enough to know that that was not the route that I wanted to go, that I was understanding the basic principles of what it means to be alive and what we actually need as organic beings to thrive. And it meant proper nutrition, the proper medical care, obviously, because I'm not against allopathy. I believe that it has a place in all of our lives. I believe, mainstream medicine is important, and I would go to a hospital if I needed to. It's not about that. It's deeper than that. And so in learning all of this about myself and putting it into practice, that took me to wanting to go back to school and wanting to become even more educated in not just in the practical sense, not just because I found it and it worked, So I got certified as a life coach, and then that took me more into the wellness health route. And within my own journey, I also became aware of just this beautiful energy that we possess that we're also not taught about, that maybe we feel anxious about something, and that anxiety, we take it as something that's bad, but what if we see this anxiety as part of that energy that's our body trying to talk to us, let that emotion be felt, let that emotion do its job, and you communicate with it and you work it out together. So I became more aware and more in touch with what it meant to be in pain, because for so long during my journey, there was improvement when I, for example, had a really clean diet, but the moment that I didn't have a clean diet, I'd be back on square zero and I'd still be in pain because the root cause wasn't addressed. So it wasn't until I was diagnosed with lupus and at the same time found the right alternative treatment for me, and also the right people that come at the right time. If we're ready, we'll be able to identify them. And that was really the beginning of the next 10 years for me, which I really consider, just the transformation stage for me, because from when I was born to 30, it was definitely a lot of just trying to survive, just trying to be who I needed to be, not really knowing who I was and what I wanted, because we all have those cultural expectations. We have we have all of that just in us automatically, and sometimes our environments don't, they just don't promote certain things, and little by little you realize that all of that is connected to your self-worth, your self-value. Then that's connected to your emotions. Your emotions are connected to your body. So you have this, constant well-oiled machine that's supposed to work together and properly all the time. But if if you don't use the right oil or, the right anything that you need, it's just not going to work. And I learned very early on that during that time, essentially what I was doing is a form of suicide. And I know that sounds like really heavy and harsh, but I don't believe that all suicides happen just like they do, where they're very, very fast. They just happen. I do believe that a lot of us beings can fall into that, not taking proper care of ourselves, letting narcissism, for example, or the presence of narcissism in our body be the one thing that slowly robs us of life and joy and all the beautiful things that are there to just fulfill us as human beings. So there's just so many ways to die. And if we accept it, that's what we'll do. You know, that lupus, that fibromyalgia, that diabetes, whatever it may be, it's going to kill us. And it is not to say that something may not happen to me tomorrow, because I am an imperfect human being. You know, I have a physical body that could just, you know, one organ in my body be like, we're done. You know, but it's so much deeper than that, that while we are alive, that everything is important. You know, the way you eat, the way you think, everything. And so it wasn't until that, you know, clicked. And then that I said, well, I don't want to die, right? And I took responsibility for myself, where that responsibility says, okay, well, if you don't want to die, then you cannot portray yourself as a victim, or you cannot accept someone to victimize you. And all of those really hard things to accept. You know, it's not easy. I know I can say, you know, the way we think, it's going to have a lot to do with it, but I'm not going to be the one to tell you that, oh, it's a piece of cake. It is going to take hard work. It is going to take facing some really hard truths, you know, and part of going through the journey is to accept that, you know, and accept that it is a stepping stone. It's not the end, that if you pull through, there's something beautiful at the end of that, because there's always something beautiful. So, you know, that's how I got here. So around by my 30s, all of this was going on. I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you 10 years ago, even though this process was happening, you know. I can see in retrospect and be like, wow, you know, I was doing that. I was doing the really hard work. I didn't know exactly where it was going to lead me, but I trusted myself enough by then to know that we have all of these beautiful things around us that are here to help us. And narcissism isn't a beautiful thing. It's actually a pretty ugly thing. But if we change the way we view it, we'll be able to identify it and we'll be able to heal from it, because it's absolutely 100% possible.
So then let's talk about that. Let's talk about, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. So let's talk about, how do you identify narcissism? What does that look like? I know it's not like a concrete thing. There's several different, you know, ways it could be interpreted. It could be that physical response. It could be that emotional, and it could even be like that spiritual space that causes this. So tell me, how do you identify that?
Okay. I identify first myself as a person who has had to experience it in my environment, right? Because that's just my truth. Right. And the other part of it is my very personal view about it. And in becoming a therapist, a holistic practitioner, a life coach, and, you know, these many other things that I do with energy medicine as well, it's almost having to find a place and being willing to be educated enough. But it's a really, I'm going to say that it's an amazing place to be able to come from the ashes that narcissism can cause, to actually, and I don't know if the term is the correct one, but like almost like devil's advocate in a way, because there's so much to it. It is so complex, you know, and then having to be sensitive and being able to describe what a victim of narcissism feels, but also address the really hard questions like why, right? Why did you end up in this relationship? And sometimes it's not romantic. Sometimes it could be relationships within family, you know, I mean, it's just, there's so much to it. But why are you gaslighted? Why are you always being pulled back into these cycles. So those are the really hard truths that we have to talk about. Mm-hmm. And in no way, shape, or form excusing what a narcissistic being does, but at the same time giving a victim a place to stand and start gaining their voice, you know? So the way I view narcissism is that essentially at some point, all of us could be narcissistic, you know? Mm-hmm. So if we say, okay, I could be like that, but I do choose not to be like that, that means that other people could potentially choose to not be like that, right? Mm-hmm. But that's their right. Their right is to be who they're going to be, and our right is to be who we're going to be based on our everything, experience, your past or now, or conditioning, name it, all of that. So to me, narcissism means that in order to heal the trauma that we acquire from being in a narcissistic environment, means that we need to examine ourselves, right? A lot of what happens to us, it could be a reflection, you know? Sometimes we could see someone act in a way and say, I really hate that. Like, I hate that attitude. I really don't like that. But then ask why, right? Like, don't just say, I don't like that. Ask yourself why. Is it because deep inside I have some, you know, unresolved trauma, some unresolved issues? Maybe I really dislike that, but I do know that I could be like that, right? So maybe I am not talking about that person. I am talking about myself. Right. Or maybe it will bring, you know, anything from, who knows, you know, a traumatic experience or just something that triggers something, and it is because you are reminded of something awful you lived. So you have to be able to identify why you feel the way you feel, why, you know, you are attracting people with narcissistic characteristics. Why is it that you're gaslighted, you know? And at the bottom of the well, you will find that it is about you. And that's the beautiful thing about healing. No one can do it for us. It is our gift, it is our power, it is our responsibility. And the moment we stop blaming people around us, now it's not to say that, you know, you aren't justly justified to say what you did hurt me, right? Because, yeah. But then we say, okay, why did I let it hurt me, right? Why is this causing me to die slowly? Right. You know, that's the real question. Am I just settling in and accepting this as my truth so that I don't have to do the work? That's a really hard question. You know, there was a point in my journey where, like I said, the right people come to you, and if you're ready, not gonna say it doesn't hurt. I'm not gonna say that. You know, I've had some hard truths told to me, and it felt like, I always say, it felt like a kick in my liver. I felt like a kick in my stomach. And I got angry, and I was like, well, you know, I didn't say this because I do tend, even now, you know, I do tend to just take a minute to respond, but I still remember that, you know, that anger kind of just like bubbling up, and then I'm already in a bad place because of, you know, why this person had to say this. I'm already not in a good place. And then you come here and you tell me, you know, like, and I always say it because it really was a turning point for me. Now, it doesn't apply to everyone, but for me, it was to have who now is my mentor at that point say to me, you're sick because you want to be. You know, I had lived in chronic pain for the better part of my 20s. I was just getting better from all of that. But my habits, basically, you know, and the environment around me was trying to pull me back. Yeah. And so I was still responding to that. And thankfully, they were a witness to that. And then to feel empowered enough and with enough trust to say, you're doing this to yourself. Do you realize that you're in the situation you're in because no 20-year-old should be in that much pain? You know, no 20-year-old should feel like an 80-year-old. Can you not see this? That you have more responsibility, you have more power, more entitled to owning your life that you're accepting. And in my mind, it had never been like that because I was doing what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Right. And it was hard. And then I simmered, and then I was like, you're right. And it changed my life. You know, nothing happens overnight. I'm still working with this because the traumas that we live, you know, can happen in one half, like a little tiny millisecond, but they'll last a lifetime if we allow them. So the reversal it's definitely not overnight. It's going to take time. There's a lot of that one little thought, that one little sentence will just spread, you know, like a virus.
Right.
And so we need to be able to allow ourselves the time to unwind all of that, the time to ask the hard questions, the why versus just the why me necessarily, you know? And then that's intertwined with so many other things, so many other relationships, so many situations that, you know, it's going to take time to unwind all of that and then just really find your true self. It doesn't mean that along the journey you don't make progress. You make absolutely amazing progress. One day you wake up and just be like, I'm a whole new person, but allowing yourself the space to kind of feel crappy the next day too, you know? There's a healing crises too that happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I know it was a really long answer to how I view narcissism, but I think it's important. It's important.
No, it's important
to have a different conversation than, you know, when I wrote about narcissism, one of the things I said, it's like, if you want to know something nowadays, you'll go to YouTube, right? And you watch the videos, or maybe you might even buy the books, but most people don't. And a lot of what I see out there is misguided information.
Yeah.
You know, you really, it's okay to go and try to find out how to spot narcissism, right? How to be able to see the red flags, because you need to be able to, especially if you're an empath, you know, you tend to be empathetic. You got to just really be okay with knowing and accepting what red flags means, what they mean to you, what they are, and how you going to prepare yourself should you encounter these things, right?
Yeah.
But most of the information is misguided. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot about what a narcissist does, but not a lot of people talk about how to heal from it truly. You know, telling someone who's in a situation like that to run away isn't the only answer. Not a lot of people, anyone can run away, you know. Sometimes there's children involved. Sometimes the codependence is too much. People die in codependence all the time. So why not teach that you can heal still, you know, and unwind the codependence still while in the relationship if you change the way you view narcissism?
So then let's talk about that healing process. I am a body and emotion code practitioner, so I know about how we attract it or why we believe that we deserve to stay in that relationship in the first place. And that's one, it's called like a broadcast message. It's like a bubble, a speech bubble around your head saying, hey, like I deserve nothing, or I'm unworthy, or like treat me this way. There's even like physical attractions that say, hit me, you know, do like bad things. And that could be even inherited. Like it goes back, it could go generations. Like I inherited like sexual abuse from 10 generations on my mom's side of the family. And it wasn't until I started my own healing journey that I said, no, this is enough. I'm not going to pass this down to my daughter. I'm done. Like, let's heal everyone. So in this process, how do we heal from it? What are the steps you took? Is it like, what did that look like for you?
I think for me, what it looked like was not believing what I was hearing that I couldn't do. because that was part of my process. That was part of my healing. And some of it was conditioned, some of it was myself, you know? And again, because of what you mentioned, we inherit things we don't even know about. When we talk about DNA and genetics, we are only mostly thinking about the actual physical, you know, tangible stuff that can be seen under a microscope. But we're so much more than that. And, you know, as a energy wellness practitioner as well, and understanding just the basic concept of what an atom does. We don't need to be physicists. We don't need to be biochemistry, anything. You know, I love it all, but I couldn't teach about it. But it's enough to know that we're energy, we're neutrons, protons, and all that good stuff, you know, and without it, we'd be nothing. So if we don't talk about the fact that we are 100% energy that's manifested in this physical form, then we will never talk about the true issues of the mind and the body, and even the spiritual ones. You know, we're not understanding this basic truth that I believe in a creator. So I believe, you know, my energy comes from him. But regardless of what you believe, it is a fact that we're energy, right? And when we talk about DNA and all that stuff, we're thinking like, okay, so you were able to look at this in a microscope. But when we are talking about energy and the energy that's passed down from generations, and when there are things about ourselves we do not understand, that is why, you know, sometimes we even hear a family member say, oh, so-and-so looks just like the great-grandfather, you know, or sometimes they won't even talk about it physically. They'll talk about the mannerisms, you know. That's what it means. It's not anything crazy out there, anything like that. It just means that there's absolutely no way for us not to inherit certain emotions, certain patterns of behaviors, things from our ancestors. And until we talk about that and find a way to heal from it, then again, these cycles will, you know, are going to keep repeating. So for me, that meant understanding a lot of things about myself, about my family. And it's a process, you know, nothing's going to happen overnight. But you know, in talking about that, it's important to mention that empath, or people with high sensitive, empathetic ability, will be the ones to attract individuals who then are more on the narcissism spectrum, because of that, you know, attraction that exists between an empathetic person who just wants to take care of everyone, especially the broken ones, you know, and we'll have the bubble over our heads trying to just do all of that. So for me, that meant understanding why, my why, you know. It is imperial for my existence and to feel fulfilled to help others. But I can't help others if I'm just giving them the fish and the bread, right?
Right.
I need to teach them how to fish and how to make the bread.
Yeah.
So understanding that gift, because it is a gift, you know, understanding that I will wear out, that I will give so much of myself, like I've already experienced, that I will be ashes, and ashes, you can't do anything with them. So for me, it meant understanding even the things that I didn't understand at the time, but allowing me the gift of time, you know, to grow into who I am to become, to be who I'm supposed to be, you know, and not just fall into the you can't do this because, you know, or especially if it comes from a narcissistic point of view, you know, in a relationship. That's a hard conversation to have, because there are things that, that's what a woman is supposed to do, or a mother, versus you don't get to do that because I say so kind of thing, you know. So for me, it meant saying, well, I understand that, but I have my wants, I have my desires, I have my rights, I have my needs, and saying, and it's okay for me to do that.
Right.
You know, whether it's accepted or not, it is okay for me to do that. And taking that power back was very important. Having a voice, taking power back doesn't happen overnight. Might not always be understood, but then, like I said from the very beginning, going inward for your intentions, your motives. Mine would definitely be breaking cycles. We have, as an empath, as empathetic beings, we have a responsibility that when we realize just how powerful that is, we have such a beautiful gift and such a beautiful responsibility to break cycles for ourselves, for our children, to teach them that some behaviors are just unacceptable. And that in order to find true happiness and find true spirituality, you have to understand the reasons why. And for me, it goes back to having a loving God, who didn't want any of this for us. Right. But yet we're living it, and he still, is showing us how to do it if we just listen. And unfortunately, not everyone's going to listen. So then what do we have to do? We have to listen, right? And learning to say yes, learning to say no, and meaning it, and building the boundaries. And, we might have to become a sort of educator to someone else, because running away isn't always, the only answer. Now, I always say this: I've not experienced physical abuse, right? But I know that many in narcissistic relationships do. And absolutely, run away as fast and as far as you can. But the topic of narcissism is so broad and so complex that there isn't a one answer, and that's what's out there. So I want to definitely talk about the fact that don't feel alone. You're not alone. If that one answer that's out there, it's what you're thinking is the only answer, that's not true. There's more to it. There's a lot of healing. I mean, what you do is wonderful. There's that. And then there's what I do, and so many other coaches, that knowing that codependency, it is a form of illness. It is a form, it's a part of the disease. And there is a lot of help out there. And knowing that is such an important part of the process.
So let's talk about that. What are some things that people can do? So they can do emotion coding. And if you don't know what body and emotion code is, it focuses on releasing the trapped energy in your body that has been suppressed in traumatic events in your lifetime, or even inherited or absorbed. So right now, a lot of people are absorbing the energy of the world. So that's what that does. We can figure out what age this occurred at, or how many generations it goes back of having this panic or feeling of unworthy. So then what other modalities could help pull you out? Is that seeing a life coach? Is that seeking herbs? Is that doing, your cultural healing? Like for me, it was going to my native ceremonies that really connects you. So what other tips can you give to people to seek help? So what?
Okay. The foundation for me is to teach people, again, when we're talking about that energy that we all possess, that is a hard concept sometimes to understand for some people, because again, we've not been taught about this. Children are taught not to cry versus cry it out and let's talk about it, that kind of thing. That's the energy we're talking about, and learning the language of emotion. So before I even go into what modalities, it's very important to activate that vital energy, that understanding that you're an energetic being, so that you are more accepting of the help that is out there, whatever you decide for it to be. For me, it is things like acupuncture. We don't even have to talk about acupuncture, because thankfully, after 5,000 years, it's an accepted form of medicine, right? So acupuncture is amazing. And if you're open to it, oh my gosh, it is such a beautiful gift to your body. Opening up those meridians, opening up the understanding that your energy doesn't flow properly because of the different reasons. Your meridians can be not flowing properly. Your energy could be stagnant, you know, it could be deficient, it could be congealed. I mean, it could be so many things.
Right.
And that's why you're suffering. That's why you're in pain. That's why you're not able to express yourself. You're not able to respond the way, you know, you're supposed to. Because what if you do live with a narcissistic person, or a person within that range of narcissism, but you're so sensitive because you're in so much pain yourself that something that maybe might have not been a big deal now is a big deal, right? So that's what's the understanding, that you need to be in touch with yourself, that in that way that will ripple to the people around you. It doesn't mean that you will stay in that situation forever. That's, you know, that's up to the person and where they're at in their journey. But again, just because you leave a relationship or a situation, it doesn't mean that it will not affect you. You might take that energy with you, right? And then that turns into years of depression and years of medication. So the important thing is to know that you possess this gift, and that you're able to activate this gift with so many different things, like acupuncture, like Ayurveda, you know, which is the Indian medicine system. All of those include herbs. And in understanding the basic principle of us being energy, then we talk about the fact that everything we are, everything we eat, everything we think, it's a vibration, it's a frequency. And in realizing that your body is just like a transmitter, you know, a radio frequency transmitter. That to me is the most beautiful gift that I can give to someone, because it wasn't until I understood that, you know, better. I had knowledge, but until I understood that and accepted it as, oh, so you mean when my heart races, it means, you know, there's something going on. It's not just anxiety. Or when I feel afraid, you know, of someone's presence within, that's my body speaking to me. I understand that this fear can hurt me, right? And it can hurt me more than the actual threat, because I'm creating this within myself. And it may be perceived at times. So understanding what, you know, the reason why all of a sudden I was afraid, instead of just blaming the exterior environment, it's like, why? You know, why are you afraid? Is it valid? You know, is it perceived? Is it real? Okay, then that's 50% of the work. The other 50 is like, okay, so what now? What are you going to do about it? But until these things don't happen, even if the tools are right in front of you, you're not going to see them. People are going to tell you about them. You're not going to see the value. You know, you're not going to see the actual potential that it could have to help you. So for me, it's acupuncture, Ayurveda, the therapy that I practiced that helped me with lupus. It's called, in Mexico, it's called medical biomagnetism. Here it's just biomagnetism. And it is the use of magnets to neutralize the pH. So the actual part where we figure out what the pH distortions are is through muscle testing, which I know you're familiar with. And probably most of the people that will be watching. So it's a beautiful thing to find through muscle testing the different areas where there's pH distortions. These pH distortions are a sign of where pathogens live, pretty much. So by neutralizing the pH in the body, these pathogens can no longer live there, and we regain health, you know? So I'm not supposed to be doing this right now, according to medicine, you know? That was 10 years ago. I wasn't supposed to have a second child. I wasn't supposed to have a home birth, you know? I wasn't supposed to do a lot of things. And perhaps even just a statistic of, you know, a Latino woman who got sick and died. But, you know, I'm doing the total opposite. And it is because I do believe 100% faith, hope, seeing the value in being alive, choosing not to die. You know, we could all die. Eventually, you know, it could be time-wise. You know, we don't know what that looks for any of us in the future. But right now, while we are alive, while we choose life, we get to do the work. And we get to be educated in what our bodies are telling us and what it needs, and breaking those cycles. And so for me as a practitioner, I did get my bachelor's in alternative medicine. So I was able to really go, deep into all these different modalities. But the ones I do practice, I have a license on AcuDetox, which is a 5-point detox for the ear with acupuncture. But I love acupuncture myself. Like, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
So many things. And then biomagnetism. And I was more recently trained in trauma release exercise. And I really do love that. I incorporate all of these beautiful things into not just the education part of, what trauma healing is, but also I want you to feel this. I want you to lay on that mat and stay still and talk to me and tell me, what hurts. And then, we'll talk about why it may hurt. And it's amazing the things that just come out. And there is so much healing in having those conversations in a safe space. It's really beautiful. I love it. I heal myself, and in the process, I don't necessarily believe I heal other people, but I do facilitate the learning for them to take that home with you, with them or with the person with me. I want everyone to have developed this ability and then pass it on.
Yeah. That's extremely important. I understand that. Like, it's not just us who need to heal. We have to heal to help other people, give them those resources or even help them along their journey. And like, we're not all supposed to just be by ourselves and, on our own journey, not looking at what everyone else is like facing. Because if we're experiencing it, that means there's other people experiencing it. Yeah. And we can share our stories to help empower them. Hey, this is like what I did. This is the modalities that I use to help heal myself. You can do it too if you're willing to do the work, right? So thank you so much for being on. I'm like, we're not even at the like meat of this, so we'll definitely have to do this again. So where can people follow you? I know you have a blog, so go ahead and share that with everyone.
Okay. The blog is more attached to my social media platforms, where I do a lot more of like life coaching, influencing type of thing. But for my other, I say that I have departments. Yeah. So for more of my holistic practitioner, you can reach me out at completeholistichealth.com. Or I don't know, are you able to list my Facebook?
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments.
Okay. Facebook is probably the fastest way to reach me. And we can definitely list any other way that, they could reach out. And I'm always available for anyone that has a question or might want to work with me, whatever. I'm here. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to leave everyone who's watching with?
Goodness. I had the opportunity to give a TEDx talk last year in November. And even though it was in a very different topic, it was still about bioenergy and more in the medical world and how they handle disease. But at the end, there was something I wanted to say, and I didn't say it, so I will say it here, because this platform is just as important as TEDx or anything. I was talking about my father at the time and a health challenge that he was going through. And at the end, I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, when we choose to live and we choose to live life the way it's supposed to be, nothing matters. We are all the same. We bleed the same. We need the same kind of food to survive. We hurt the same. Nobody's hurt is bigger than others. Pain is pain. Trauma is trauma. So we're all in this together. None of us are any different when it comes to suffering. So we just need to be there for each other and share, just like we're doing right now, the things that make a difference. That's it.
Thank you so much. So powerful. Like, oh, I'm going to cry. So if you guys are catching the replay, go ahead and comment #replay so we can interact with you. And if you have any questions, go ahead and comment below and we'll make sure we're able to help you with anything that you have going on in your life. So reach out to us. And thank you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.